Well, hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our BAM session today. Great to have everyone trouncing through the doors, the digital doors. So today, I wanted to talk about how to take professional property photos with your smartphone. Okay. Now, some of you, this may be relevant. Some of you, you might say, well, I'm not too worried about that. I outsource my photography. I always hire a professional. And to be honest with you, I do that as well. I am a photographer. That's what I've never done it professionally to get paid for it other than through real estate, but photography is probably my number one uh, hobby that I've done over the years. I started competing in competitions when I was in college, and I was a theology major in college, and I was beating actual photography majors in my college in competitions, and it really bugged them that this non-major was uh, getting these accolades. So photography has always been something I've done. I've been very interested in it. I've studied it for many years. But even though it's one of my things, I still outsource photography today to professionals. But now it's more of a time thing because I know they have the time. I'm just going to focus on what I do that, and let them focus on what they do. Let them do that. I'll pay them. And I'm really buying back my time. So that's the biggest reason why I outsource photography. But I love it. I love taking property photos and doing all of that. And it's always exciting when you're at a listing presentation and you get the listing agreement signed and you ask them, okay, when would you like to schedule the property photos? When would you like to do the photo shoot? And when you frame it like that, they're thinking, wow, this is great. They actually do a photo shoot. And so whether you're taking the photos or whether you're scheduling someone else, it's just a great way to come across as very professional when you're doing your listing presentation. So now I talk about outsourcing it. Personally, I probably pay $400 or $500 to a professional photographer to do photos. They'll do drone, they'll do video, they'll do all of that, and that's kind of what I budget for a listing when I'm personally outsourcing that. However, there were times, especially early in my real estate career, where I didn't have 400 or $500 up front to pay some photographer to do my photos. And there was a very small difference in what they could do and what I could do. And so most of the time, I would just go through and do the photographs myself. And in those early days, I had all the professional equipment. As a matter of fact, I still have professional equipment. I had professional video equipment, professional grade photography equipment, lenses. I have all of that. But you know what I found? And nobody really wants you to know this in the photography world, but I can do as good or better photos with my iPhone as I can with a $5,000 camera. Okay. So that's the little secret that Sony doesn't want you to know, or Nikon, they don't want you to know that. Canon doesn't want you to know that. And I'm talking about property photos. In particular, I would say iPhone. That's what I've got the most experience with. iPhone is amazing. And I've heard that Droid has as good or better of camera built into that as what an iPhone does. And I don't know that firsthand, but if it can take as good of photos as an iPhone, then you are good to go. The only thing that I'll say is when I go, and I don't do too many of these now, I do them for friends mostly if I'm listing a friend's property. I take my professional equipment with me, and then I always do a backup shot with my iPhone. Like I'll do it with the camera and then I'll do an iPhone shot. It's always the iPhone shots that I use on the MLS because they just now one of the reasons for that, it's called dynamic range. And maybe you've seen photos where you have the living room and all the windows are blown out, meaning they're all bright white. They're just basically white. You can't see anything out the window because the photography is exposed for the living room, right? But with the window, it's not exposed for the outside on a normal camera, so you can't really tell what's out there. Well, the thing that's really amazing about iPhone and probably Droid is it has what's called about 13 stops of dynamic range, which means it will expose the indoors as well as the outdoors both at the same time. And that's unbelievable. So you can have a picture of a living room and you can see the wooded backyard outside the window, and you can see the inside of the living room. So that's called dynamic range. And that's what makes iPhones and probably Droids so amazing that you have to pay, thousands of dollars for a camera that will have the dynamic range that an iPhone has. So that's why I think you're good to go. If you have an iPhone or Droid, you're good to go on professional photography, and it wouldn't hurt to explain that to you. I'm explaining it to you so you can explain it to your clients. I use an iPhone because it has the best technology available. It's as good as any professional camera. And the other thing is the biggest thing you need to know about photography is it's more of the skill of the person taking the photos than it is the camera itself. I heard someone say, just an illustration, someone wrote a great poem, and another person said, "Oh my gosh, that's an amazing poem. What kind of pen did you use?" And it's not that he wrote a great poem because he had a great pen. He wrote a great poem because he's a great poet, right? And it's the same thing with photography. You can say, "Oh my gosh, that's such a great picture. What kind of camera did you use?" And really, the camera is very small, very minimal in importance compared to the skill of the person using it. So, um, however, there's plenty of people out there using iPhones and different types of cameras that have no idea what they're doing. And but I just wanted to equip you today through this BAM session, our webinar this morning, on how to take professional photos with a smartphone. Okay, so I'm going to give you 21 tips that will help you to take professional grade photos with your smartphone. Okay, so the first one is tip number one: take all pictures as horizontal shots rather than vertical. That means wide rather than tall, because the MLS and many other sites will stretch the photos on their website when taken as vertical pictures. And I see this a lot. Uh, Photographers or agents, they'll take pictures vertical to go through the house, take vertical shots. Don't do that. You'll automatically be relegated to amateur world if you do that. It's not hard. Just turn it sideways and you'll get your shots best that way. And then it converts to all of the different platforms better. All the real estate platforms are set up for horizontal shots. Okay. Next important tip: when you go into the room, use the widest angle lens you can find without the picture appearing to be a fisheye photo, one that is wildly bent and distorted. Maybe you've seen those. Some cameras have a fisheye setting where just everything looks like you're looking out of a snow globe or something. You don't want that. However, you do want the widest level setting where it's not distorted. So it's pretty easy on an iPhone. Most phones you can tell, but the reason for that is you want to be able to see the most range of what's in that room. And rooms, cameras can make a room look very small. So you want to make sure you have it set on wide angle, and that makes the room look big, which is what you want. You want as much information in that photo as possible. You don't want to come in, and I see it. You could go on the MLS and see photos of people took it and they just have the normal setting, and it looks like a very small room. Especially if you're looking at a 10 by 10 room or a 10 by 12 room, that room is going to look so small. How many times have you gotten on the MLS and someone's taken a picture of that room and all you see is just the very corner, and you're thinking, why am I looking at this? Like, what is that? And it looks like a closet or something. So make sure you have the widest setting possible on your phone. Okay, that's tip number two. Tip number three: take pictures on a bright day if you possibly can do that. And in general, you want to try to do this in the middle of the day. But let me add one more tip to this. Tip number four is schedule your photo shoot for a time of the day when the sun will be lighting the front of the house. Okay. So what I always do, and if I'm talking to someone on the phone, either I'll ask them, "Hey, what direction is your house facing?" So if it's facing north or south, not necessarily as important. If it's facing like northwest or northeast or southwest or southeast, then it starts to make a difference. If it's facing directly east or directly west, then that's going to make a difference. So I normally try to schedule it just before. I don't like it when the sun is directly over top. Okay. So I want the front of the house to be lit. So if the house is facing the east, I'll generally schedule my photo shoot somewhere between 10 and 11 in the morning. If it's facing the west, I'll normally schedule my photo shoot to be somewhere between 1 and 2 in the afternoon. That way, it's got maximum brightness on the front of the house. What you don't want is for the house to be backlit so that the sun is shining and you have this dim picture of an underexposed front of the house. And so that's what you're trying to avoid. Okay. And when you do this, then the clients will think, oh, wow, he's actually considering the placement of the sun on that day. I think this person knows what they're talking about. So it gives you credibility when you ask them questions. Hey, what direction does it fit? Let's schedule it because we want the sun to be in the right position. Okay, photo tip number 5. When you go inside the house, and this is my recommendation, open every curtain, every blind to allow as much light in the room as possible. Turn on every light in every room. You want that room to be as bright as you possibly can. So we don't want dark photos, and the less light you have in that room, the less information comes through that lens so that it makes it very difficult for the lens to capture that room. So you want to brighten it up as much as you can. Okay, so turn on every light, use every window possible, open the curtains, make it bright. Okay, and then photo number 6, which is closely related to why we just did photo tip number 7 or number 5, turn off the flash. Okay. Turn off the flash to your camera. And I say this because this is an excellent way to demonstrate that you're an amateur, is if you use the flash settings on a room. Typical flash on a camera will span about 6 to 8 feet, maybe 10 feet. So what it will do is it'll brighten up everything, the counter, but then off in the distance, everything will be underexposed. So you want to be careful not to do that. So make sure you turn off the camera flash and instead use the light that comes through the windows and the interior lights to brighten everything up as much as possible. Okay. Photo tip number 7, and this is the key. This is the hinge pin to your professional photo shoot right here. Okay. Take a picture of every room from every corner. At the end, you can choose the best ones that turn out from each room. So you go into the room, that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner. You've got your photos. So take it from every corner of every room. And then at the end, you can look at which pictures give you the best sense for that property, which photos are the most flattering photos for that property. Okay. Photo tip number 8, make sure there's no clutter in the background. Okay. Declutter the house. And I don't have a separate tip for this, but that includes pets. Have you ever seen property photos and there's a dog in the room or there's a cat in the room? Very distracting. And it actually will eliminate people who maybe they're allergic to dogs or cats and they're like, oh, I don't even want to deal with that. So make sure you hide the cat. I've seen that. I actually remember I had a photo and I didn't even realize a cat was poking his head out from under the bed. And I posted on the MLS and someone's like, wow, cool cat. I was like, I didn't even know they had a cat. And there it was right there in the photo. So be careful. Watch the background, make sure it's decluttered on the day. If a room, this is number 9, if a room has wood or tile floors, I recommend that you take at least one photo with the camera sitting directly on the floor. So so that way it's very low and you can really accent highlight that feature, and it can come across as a very nice photo. So you can do that on wood, you can do it on tile, you can do it on granite counters, just a nice touch. Photo tip number 10, if the kitchen has granite hard surface counters, then take at least one picture with the camera sitting directly on the counter to highlight that feature. So really try to highlight their features, and you might even ask the homeowners, "Hey, so just to make sure I get everything the way you want it, what are some of the key features you'd like me to highlight in these photos?" And a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, there's this little thing, this is important to us, so make sure you get a picture of that." Photo tip number 11, make sure you are not in the reflection of any pictures that have a mirror or a window that is reflective, bathroom mirrors. How many of you have seen uh, bathroom mirror photos and there's somebody standing in there? And it's like, ooh, that's weird. And so be careful you're not that person. I remember there was somebody who advertised a little silver teapot on eBay many years ago. And the picture, when they took the picture, this obese person who took the picture was naked. And they took a picture of the teapot and then they posted on eBay. I don't know if he knew his reflection was in the teapot or not. Maybe there was some weird thing going on there, um, but that got quite a lot of uh, attention online. So just be careful. Number one, don't get yourself in a reflection. Number two, don't take property photos when you're naked. So hopefully those two tips will be helpful for you. Photo tip number 12, um, make sure all dirty towels and underwear are picked up before taking pictures. Um, I've been in some bad situations where, they're wanting me to pick up their dirty laundry, and I typically say, "Hey, it looks like this might not be a good day for a photo shoot. How about if we come back tomorrow? Let's, make sure everything's ready. Want to make sure you're ready because people don't want to see dirty underwear in the pictures." But make sure the home is spotless. Towels on the rack should be straight. Clutter on the counters should be put away. Pictures, magnets on the refrigerator should be put away. Bookshelves should be straightened up and organized. And literally, I see much of that to be my responsibility as a photographer because people live in their home and they just get used to the clutter. They don't even realize it's there. And you have to be careful. You talk about a refrigerator. They probably have pictures of their grandkids or the kids or whatever it might be. I would ask them, say, "Hey, I know these are very important pictures, but what would you think about if we take these down for the photos? Is that okay?" And so they'll let them do it. Don't you just start taking pictures of their kids down and throwing them in the trash. That doesn't work very well. So be careful about that as well. But make sure, but try to eliminate all that stuff because in pictures it looks awful. Okay. So photo tip number 13, make sure the toilet seat is down. It's just really tacky to see toilet seats up in a bathroom photo. Okay. Um, Photo tip number 14, make sure the kitchen sink is empty. And I came to one house one time that had piles of dishes. It looked like months worth of dishes that were in the sink. And I just, there was no way I could hide the photo or hide the dishes. I just had to reschedule. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. It looks like we're gonna have to reschedule. I want it to be excellent. So when do you think would be a better day to make sure that all that stuff is out of the way?" So photo tip number 15, make sure towels in the kitchen and bathrooms are hung neatly. Almost every time I do property photos, I have to neaten up the towels. Okay, so I just see that as part of my responsibility. People just don't know necessarily. And crooked towels or towels just thrown over uh, a bar just looks awful in property photos. So make sure you be the one to neaten those or take them down or something for those, or ask the homeowner to help you with that. Photo tip number 16, take the picture of the front of the home from each corner of the front of the lot. Now this is for your outside shots. Okay, now we've moved outside. Take the picture of the front of the home from each corner. Okay. So most people, they'll take a straight on shot of the front of the home. And it's okay to get one of those shots just to make sure you've got something that's good. But I recommend that you move to the corner of the front of the lot so that you can see two sides. And then I recommend get down on one knee as you take that photo from a lower vantage point and you're shooting up at it from the corner, and it makes the house look expensive and expansive. It looks big. That's one thing I've used. It's a hack. Now, the only thing to keep in mind is when you go to the corner, there might be trash cans or something like that along the side of the house. You don't necessarily want to capture that, so be careful, watch for that. Um, but go to both corners. So you want to do one from the front center, then go to both corners of the front of the lot to get the different angles of the house. Okay, that's photo tip number 16. Number 17 is take a picture of the backyard as seen from the back patio. Okay, so you step out onto the back patio from the house and you take a wide angle shot of the back of the backyard. Okay, then you take another photo from the back corner of the lot facing back towards the house. And again, I recommend bending down on one knee for that shot to emphasize the size of the house. Okay. So you take it from the house looking back, then you go back to both corners of the lot and take a picture looking back toward the house. Okay. Number 18, be sure to take photos of any special features of the home or community. So if they have a real nice fountain out front, or they have a swimming pool, or an amazing deck, or trails through the woods, whatever that might be, make sure you get photos of that. And then if they're in a community with a community pool, be sure to get pictures of the community pool. Try to get pictures of the community center. Get pictures of the front entryway. They have a big rock sign with a waterfall or something like that out in the front. Make sure you get pictures of that so it looks appealing online. So get pictures of the community and any special features around the house. Number 19, uh, after you get your photos completed, use photo editing software to make the pictures perfect. And if you know how to use Facebook or you know how to use Instagram, you can use just about any uh, photo editing software that's out there. You can find free stuff. And I generally will push the color a little bit. You don't want it to be ridiculous, but I'll bump the color to just make it pop off of the screen because a lot of times photos will look underwhelming. The lawn will look just won't pop as much. So if you bump the color just a little bit, and you want to be careful that the colors match, like you've just gone through the interior of the house, and you don't want to bump the color so much that it's a different color. People get a little sensitive about that, so be careful. But work on your exposure. You can use the settings to maybe you underexposed a room, so you can bump the exposure. You can recrop the picture. So maybe you have this picture of the bathroom, but as you're looking at it, it's kind of weird. Or maybe you see your leg in the mirror or whatever, so you can crop it just in to make sure that it looks just right. And there's a lot of free photo editing apps out there. So take advantage of those. Number 20, um, here's what you don't take a picture of. Skip closets, the garage, maybe an unfinished basement, and any other areas that might appear unflattering in the photos. Okay. Occasionally, you can take a picture of a closet if the homeowner has it looking pristine and they ask you to do it. If like they might say, man, this is like the coolest part of this house is the closet. And I've literally had people like that. You go into the closet and it looks like a department store. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a closet this big. That's huge. Okay, got it. So that's okay. But most of the time, that's not what the closets look like. We actually bought a property in Florida recently, and I was stunned that they had pictures of the closet online. And they had a his closet and a hers closet. Her closet uh, it was unbelievable. It was jammed full of everything she's owned for the last 20 years, right there in his closet. There's this picture right online. I was stunned that they would post pictures like that. So don't you be like that. And I've seen garage pictures of listings where there's oil spills on the pavement. Everything looks cluttered. It's very difficult to make basement or make garage pictures look good. There are exceptions, but most of the time, garage pictures are not going to be flattering. Closet pictures are not going to be flattering. An unfinished basement is not going to be flattering most of the time. So if it's a flattering picture, by all means, go grab it. But if it's not going to boost the value of the home in the eyes of the person looking at the pictures, then don't worry about including those. Number 21, here's a tip. You could hire a professional. Okay. So my favorite company I work with is Wow Video Tours, and they are in many different markets. So look them up. But the thing I like about them is I've got a package. It's like that's the Chris package. I always do that, and it includes vertical video. If you're hiring a company, make sure they do a video walkthrough that's less than 60 seconds and it's vertical. That way, the video can be shared as a reel, and then it's shared with thousands of people rather than just people you know. So that's on video. Make sure you find a company that does that if you hire a professional. Also, drone. Um, and actually, I don't know if Kevin's on here. Kevin Rife, Scott's son, has a photography company, and he does exceptional. Scott, he does drone and everything, right?
He does. Yeah.
Okay, so that's another excellent um, person to contact if you're interested. And as a matter of fact, we're in about 20 different markets. So if you're looking for a photographer in your market, I'd recommend getting in our Facebook group and just say, hey, looking for a photographer in this area. And I'm sure you'll get 5 or 10 recommendations. So, but that's always something to consider is hiring professionals. So, um, well, those are my 21 tips. So probably like drinking water out of a fire hydrant. I know I went pretty fast, but um, I'd be curious to hear any of your comments, questions, input. Some of you take photographs, even if you have a story. Love to hear a story of some wild experience that you've had. But what do you think? Any thoughts, questions, comments out there?
Hey, Chris
Yeah,
and
Robert, what do you
everybody.
got, man?
Hey, that was really good. I do all my own photography as well, and I've kind of was an amateur photographer all my life growing up, taking pictures and whatnot. So a lot of what you said was really great. Um, One thing that when you mentioned about the tiles hanging and everything neatly, another thing is kind of a pet peeve of mine is make sure the bedspreads are all nice and smooth and the corners where they drape over are nice and even on each side. Little things like that really improve the quality of a photo. And drapes, all that stuff, try to make them equal and look the same. So, yeah, I think you knocked this one out of the park. That was really good.
Well, those are great points, and that's exactly. I definitely do all that. Yeah, I think I didn't include it in there. I appreciate you bringing that up. But tug the corners of the bed, just make sure like you said, make sure it's straight, tight. You don't want a messy bedspread or the curtains. Just make sure those are all neat, and gathered correctly. So, good thoughts there, Robert.
Yeah, I had one that I sold a couple years ago. Had the bed all nice and neat, and they had this cat that jumped up on the bed and got sick in the middle of the bed. So I
Oh
had
my
to take
gosh!
and find a throw of some sort to neatly place over it. So that's kind
Did
of
you
a funny
did you
story.
did you place the throw over the cat or just over the vomit?
Just over, just over the vomit.
Oh,
The
okay,
cat,
I gotcha.
the
Yeah,
cat disappeared. He ran off.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
just curious.
sometimes you have to think on the go and improvise.
Yes, yes. Oh, wow.
Another the
Well,
same. it was a different one. A cat was, I was taking pictures of the front porch, and this other one's cat jumps up on the porch with a dead bird. So I
Yeah.
had to retake that picture again.
One of the things you can either do that or you can marry a graphic designer. And I've had photos that Lee, my wife, has photoshopped various things out of the picture, so that can
Yeah,
work too.
yeah, absolutely.
So, so okay, good. Any other thoughts or questions, comments out there? Marcy.
Yeah, Chris, I'd like to thank you for this class. This is great. It's a great reminder of things that I've learned over the years. I do want to say that I take a portfolio with me when I'm doing a listing presentation so that I can show the quality of the camera shots I get on my phone. I'm an Android user. I have all those professional settings. I only know how to use a few of them, but they do make me look like a professional photographer. With the tips that you've shared added to practicing with your own home.
Mhm. Yes.
There's the rule of thirds where you get, a third of the ceiling, a third of the room, and a third of the floor as your profile of the room you're trying to get. And a wide angle definitely helps because you just don't take pictures of the corners of the room.
Mhm.
But one thing that I've done is I purchased, it's very portable, it's very lightweight. It's those umbrella lighting kits that
Yeah.
I just keep them in a bag in the car, and in those trouble areas, which often might be like a room with paneling in it, they tend to be pretty dark. I can add some additional lighting. It helps immensely. And then I always share with my clients that I'm either going to be bringing a partner with me or they can be my partner, but we're going to be needing to move some things around and we'll put them right back. But we want the very few things in a photo. We don't want a lot of accessories, a lot of appliances on the counters. Less is more. Take it all down, put a couple of strategic things up, covering areas that need to be covered. I don't think it's a great look to see a backsplash on the kitchen sink area where the switch plates are every 18 inches. That looks terrible. So I might put an appliance or a vase or something decorative in front of that. And then
Yeah.
your tip about taking pictures of the flooring or the granite is really a great idea because, at least with our MLS, the AI feature for every photo will offer descriptions under the photo of what it is they're looking at. And so, unique things like granite, or, sometimes they get it wrong, it's actually quartz, but they can make it the idea and then you can correct it. But it reminds you to go in and describe some of your photos, which is also helpful.
Yeah, that's really good. I wonder if that AI feature has ever made a comment like cat vomit on a bedspread or something like that. Uh, Not sure
You
how
know,
precise that is, but yeah, that's great, Marcy. Those are all some really excellent tips.
Just
Thank you
something
for
to add
sharing
to
that.
what Marcy said is if you give your client the impression that you are going to do everything possible to make these pictures perfect, and that's going to require moving some of their crap, they're
Yes.
usually okay with it. Most of my clients just look at me and I'm like, because I always hire somebody, but I always say that I'm going to be with them. I'm going to be moving things. Please, I will do my best to put everything exactly where they had it. But in the end, you will see the finished product is so much more than it could have been if we had just walked around and not moved anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. That's a good way to be a captain of the ship, to kind of take control and let them know, set their expectations. Here's what's going to happen and get them
Yep.
involved in it. I think that's a really good way to do that. Good job. Good.
Chris, I had
Any
a
other
couple
thoughts?
ideas.
Yeah, sure.
Um, One thing I like how you're taking the photos the best time of day for lighting. Google Maps helps with that because you can tell, how what direction the
Hmm.
the property faces.
Yep.
Um, You mentioned put the toilet seat down. Also, one of the first times I ever went out and took pictures, I left they had a TP roll just sitting on the bathroom counter. And afterwards, I'm like, that looks so bad. And this is before I knew how to Photoshop or anything. So I actually went back and took another picture without the toilet paper roll. And so that was a terrible waste of time. So now I always remember either you put it on the thing that holds it, or just put it in the cabinet under the sink or something. And you can get an inexpensive tripod. So sometimes if you are in a darker room and it's going to be a longer exposure, it will come out better if you have it on a tripod, or even use that to do, if you want to do a pan of each room. And then with some simple photo editing software, you can put all those pans of each room together do some music and then create your own video to go along with it. I use an app called VN, and that's a good photo editing or video editing software that's super simple. It's free and it's super easy to figure out. And it also has some free music you can put in the background and use that too if you want to do your own videos to accompany your photos. Um, Last one is I see sometimes people doing too many photos. I try to look at the photos as a preview, not the feature film. I want the photos to grab their interest and get them in the house. I don't want to show them everything. So, like how you said, leave out the garage, the closets, the basement, and because you don't want to show everything. You just want to show the best. That way, they're intrigued and they want to come see it.
That's such an excellent point as well. And we talked about that book by Jordan Cohen this past year.
Hmm.
He's like the top real estate agent in the world for Remax. And he was also a proponent of not showing every photo because when people look at photos, they're actually looking for a reason to rule out the property.
Hmm.
And so you have to be careful not to show too much, just show enough to kind of draw them in. So, but Marcy, looks like maybe you had another thought.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Scott, for reminding me about this. I have a pet peeve with agents who put the first 6 photos of their listing are all the same room, just a different corner of each room. I mean, of that one room. And what I think is a better practice is to take or to order them as like the best room in the house first, then the next best room, and go through and then circle back again and put in a second exposure of a different angle in that room from, you know what I'm saying? Because when somebody is scrolling, they're going through, if it's all kitchen, 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 they get bored and they got to move on. So to keep them looking at all, we get to put in like 50 photos now, I think. But to get them looking through the whole rack of photos, you've got to change it up. So my suggestion is, yeah. I'll never forget there was this one house, they painted the living room orange, and the first 15 photos were orange photos, and they were just the same room, but it gave the impression that every room in the house was orange. And that's what triggered me to go, yeah, we better not do that. That's a bad idea. So for what it's worth.
That's an excellent point. I've seen somewhere you have to get through 15 pictures just to get into the front door, like 15 pictures of the front of the house. And it's like, come on, most people just be like, and for that reason, I'm out. And so I think that's a really good point. Just make it quick, get them through, get your very best picture of each room to start out, do it in a logical order as they're progressing through the house. I like that. That's really good. And then you can come back to those other pictures later, but not your first 15. So good. Any other thoughts, questions?
I'm just kind of reiterating what you had said, how important it is, like when you're taking pictures of reflective surfaces, like a large screen TV or an appliance that's got a glass front on it. Keeping your image out of those reflections is very important. And even, obviously most people are in other people's houses fully clothed, but still it's just weird seeing a body in a picture that you're trying to show off a house. And there's I just really pay close attention to that. And it's so easy to step aside just a little bit to get out of that reflection. And it does make a difference. I've seen a lot of listings that had images of the photographer standing in the reflection of an appliance or a mirror, like you said. That's very important to stay out of that.
That's a good point. I think it's easier to do than what most people. It's like it's easy to accidentally catch yourself in a reflection because maybe it's on the wall or something. So you really do have to be cognizant of it. Another problem I have is leaving my tripod sitting in another area. Like I'll take my camera off the tripod and so my tripod will be, or my bag or something be sitting over there in the corner. It's like, I gotta, so I
Yeah.
usually keep it out on the front step or in the garage or something so I
Yep.
don't keep taking pictures of it. So
Yeah, the more you do, once you get in tune to all these things come second nature. You just
yeah.
automatically take these precautions and do these things. And it's back to your thing and Marcy's saying about too many pictures of one thing right off the bat. I normally go through and pick two, maybe three if it's a really outstanding room, like a superb kitchen, but limited to a maximum of three per room as you're rolling through, if it's really good. But if it's just regular rooms, nothing outstanding, definitely limited to two pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's good. As I'm thinking about it, it'd be kind of interesting. I'd like to do a little poll here of our group. Let me know, do you take your own photos or do you hire a professional? If you don't mind writing that into the chat, write your name, I hire it, or I take my own photos. If you take your own photos, I'd be interested to hear what kind of camera you use for that. So, yeah, jot that out there if you don't mind. Your name, if you hire it out, or if you take your own photos. And then, if you hire it out, it would also be interesting to hear who do you outsource that to. So maybe jot another comment out there. Who do you recommend? Who has done a good job for your photography that you would recommend? And then later today, I'd like to get for those of you, especially who take your own photos, I'd like to see what you've done. So let's post those in our Facebook group. I'll start a string over there and see if you have photos. I'd love to see some of your shots that you've taken, and we'll add those to the string. Doesn't have to be all of your pictures, but I'd like to kind of see what people are doing, or even if you've hired it out, I'd like to see some samples of what your photographer is doing. So, but yeah, write your stuff out there in the margin, in the chat, and love to see what everyone's doing.
One recommendation I have for anybody just starting out, taking their own pictures, and I've hired professional photographers, and like Chris said before, with his professional equipment based on and compared to his Android or iPhone, more times than not, the pictures I take, because I always take pictures of my own, regardless if I hire somebody, but 95% of the time I end up using all the pictures I take and very few of theirs. So I just kind of started doing it all on my own. And it's for starting out, I recommend go to real estate websites, whether it's on MLS, wherever, and look at some of the photography that you see on very successful agents that are out there, because they have it figured out. And when you look at those pictures, and that gives you ideas of angles and lighting and all sorts of different things that you can use to your advantage when you're taking your pictures.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely learning. Keep learning. I've watched a ton of YouTube videos on real estate photography. There's lots of good content out there. One bonus idea. This isn't one of my keys, But if you really want to go for the gold on your photos, you can include a blue hour or golden hour photo of your property that you're doing. Maria, her background there at the Golden Gate Bridge, remember this idea. That's actually at sunset, but the golden hour is the hour just before sunset, and the blue hour is the hour just after sunset. And I love doing blue hour photos of a house and let them know you're doing it, but you'll have to come back later that day. And I would say 30 to 60 minutes after sunset, you want them to turn on all their lights in their house, and then you'll get some exterior photos of the house during the blue hour. And the sky it's not black, the sky is blue, and that's what makes it so pretty. And then you have their house lights will pop off. And I've gotten amazing blue hour photos with an iPhone. So that's just an idea, bonus points if you want to really do it well. So,
Hey, you might want to get with Clark Griswold on the exterior lighting, because he's the master of exterior lighting.
yeah, especially Christmas.
Yes.
That's great. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments out there? All right. Well, with that, we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining in with us. I am continuing to do our Real Estate 101. We did Real Estate 101 on this past Thursday, and I'm taking new agents through basically first base, second base, third base, home plate, taking around the bases. Last week we talked about basically getting off the launch pad your first 30 days. This Thursday at 1, I'm going to teach new agents on lead generation. So if you're interested in being a part of that, we're going to do a BAM session. It won't be a BAM, it'll be a little different, but it's going to be a class webinar on lead generation this Thursday at 1 o'clock. So if you're interested, you're welcome to join in. All right. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you guys.